The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. This is episode number 14, coming at you from a very wintry Bellingham, Washington. Sort of like an old man who won't give up the television remote in a nursing home. Winter's icy grip won't release Bellingham.
What? What are you talking about?
That was
you just
a
come up with
simile.
that? Are you thinking about that before we went on the air here?
No, it's a metaphor.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Where did you get remote?
I don't know.
We're in a nursing home.
I was trying to think of somebody old holding on to something tenaciously. And I would imagine in a nursing home, when somebody's trying to watch Matlock and then someone else wants to watch Wheel of Fortune, there's a lot of scuffles over the television.
And people
remote.
die, and there's like...
Yeah, they have heart attacks.
And they're just holding onto the...
colostomy bag bursts. And...
you also didn't introduce us, because you went into this simile that you said.
Oh, yeah, I was so excited about it. I'm one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren Van.
The weather. I was downtown today. Beautiful, sunny. It's like walking around whistling a merry tune. Got a phone call from my mom. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm broken down. And she was stranded somewhere. So I was like, all right, I'll go see if I can do nothing because I don't. It's another one of those things where in my family I know about cars.
Yeah.
But that's in comparison to everyone else in my family.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it's all very relative. So I start driving. There was literally one block was beautiful and sunny. The next block, I was in the middle of some horrible winter wasteland where it was just a complete whiteout blizzard, horrible. And I was just wearing a light little jacket, had just styled my hair. It was nicely combed. Mm-hmm. And got to where my mom was in this parking lot. She had this little parka on and a hood. She's a short little woman. She's like, being battered around in the snow with her hood up. And she knows pretty much nothing about cars. And so I got there and did the whole, looked at the engine for a while.
That car's not starting.
Try starting it. She tried. I was like, doesn't sound like you're getting any gas. She's like, yeah, it just kind of stopped. Yep. It's like, do you have the owner's manual? We looked for that for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, probably going to have to get a tow truck here.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the help. And then I left.
What are you supposed to do? You're not a mechanic.
Well, there's certain things I know, but it's everything I know about cars is based on specific models that I've owned.
Yeah, they're all different.
So yeah, I used to have old Saabs that I worked on myself quite a bit, and I knew about a Saab from maybe the mid 80s to the early 90s, but that's a very different car.
Very specific.
Yeah, she had a giant old, well, I don't know, it's like a 90-something Oldsmobile. Park Avenue, like an old man car.
Oh,
in fact, it was my dead grandpa's car. It's very luxurious inside, but I don't know.
Those cars like that, they always have a good ride, good suspension.
They kind of wallow, but they're very smooth.
You know what I can do? I can change tires.
I can do that.
I can jump cars.
I can do that.
And I could also use a Slim Jim and break into a car.
I'm good at breaking into cars, yeah.
This is based on mostly on my knowledge when I was a mall security guard when I was in college. And sometimes people would lock their keys in the car, and you bring up the Slim Jim and be like, you want me to try to open your door? And they'd be like, please. And I'd be like, let me tell you one thing about this car. I'll probably damage the car, but I will get the door open. You sure you want me to do it?
Right.
Sometimes they would, and then I'd yank it open, and it would rip a bunch of wires out, and their power windows wouldn't work anymore. But they would be able to get in their car, and I'd be like, I told you that was going to happen. But, what are you going to do?
Well, that's kind of nice that you guys would offer that service, because usually people would just say, go hire a fucking locksmith, and they come out and charge you $80 to do the exact same thing, basically.
I don't even know if they do it anymore, because I just end up damaging cars. Because it worked better on old-timey cars. You could just do it, and it would work really
well.
easily.
Yeah, it depends. I saw someone doing this recently on, I was downtown, and there was a locksmith guy who just had a Slim Jim and yanked the car open.
Really?
Yeah.
I think if you have the proper knowledge, you can probably know how to avoid the wires, maybe.
There was one time when I was living in L.A. and my girlfriend and I got locked out of our apartment, and our manager wasn't around, so we called a locksmith, charged us $130 came out and looked at the lock for a minute, got a credit card out of his wallet and shoved it into the lock and opened the door.
Yeah.
It's like $130.
Well, he had the expert knowledge.
That's annoying.
I'm really into like hiding keys around.
Yeah.
When I used to have a car, I don't have a car anymore, but I used to have one of those magnetic things underneath the car because I would always lock my keys in the car constantly because I have memory problems and I always leave the lights on constantly, so I'd always have to have jumper cables and ready to do that. Yeah, in my house, there are many keys hidden. I don't actually carry a key to my house. I don't carry any keys with me.
Maybe we should have listeners try to guess where the keys are
The
hidden.
thing about the keys at my house is that I would say most of the people listening to this podcast right now already know where the keys are at my house. It's not a mystery.
I don't think I know where any of them are. I'm sure I could probably find them. There's always certain places that
You know where the hidden
keys.
key is for the front door?
I don't think so. Oh, no, I think I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Plus, people just like to let themselves into our house sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're fine with that.
It creeps me out.
But I mean, the thing about getting into somebody's house is you have windows on your house.
Yeah.
So somebody really want to get in your house, they could just push the window in and like get into the house.
That's the weird thing because we mentioned last week that I live alone, and I've lived in apartments for a long time, and I'm always on the second floor at least, and so I leave my windows open constantly. If I had a house, I don't know what I'd do. I guess I'd have to close my windows every once in a while.
Well, the thing about closing a window is weird though, because it's like, it's not, a window doesn't stop anything from getting into somewhere unless if it wants to get in, right?
Well, they could break the window.
They could break the window.
The whole point is to do it quietly and without being observed, I guess.
You need one of those things that like cat burglars have, right? Where it's like the round thing,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if anyone actually
you
uses
put a suction thing on there and it like goes around. Have you ever seen anyone use one of those in real life?
I don't think so. There was some show, I can't remember what the hell it was called, but it was basically like, it takes a thief to catch a thief. And they would have people would sign up for this show. They'd go to their house and look at their security system. If they had a security system, they'd be like, all right, these are all the faults you have. And then they would have the person go away on vacation and wouldn't tell the person when someone was going to break into their house. But then they would get these ex-cons who were burglars, and they'd go, look at this place. It's a sitting duck. And then they'd come and just like smash through the windows and just run in and take a bunch of shit. And then the people would come home and go, oh, my God. And
but
then,
can't you do that to any house at any time?
I would assume so. But then they would always talk about like, oh, you've got this window that's hidden by a fence in the backyard that somebody can smash without neighbors noticing, or you've got this fault here, this here. But yeah, basically the technique involved was just to take a big rock and smash a window out.
Well, this takes me back to my time as mall security guard because there was a lot of shoplifting going on at the mall. And we were always told not to do anything, not to respond in any way to anything. Just if anything happens, run inside and call the police and hide.
Right.
But the thing is, if you go into like your old Navy or Radio Shack and you take things and just walk out with them, no one's going to do anything.
Oh, yeah.
You can walk to your car and just drive away.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to shoplift. The main thing is keeping people from shoplifting is the fact that they're like shame or like...
I have known people who have been horrible shoplifters. They weren't good friends or anything, but they're people I knew. And their technique was just all audacity. If you just go in, they would actually sometimes, like if they were in a big box store, they'd have a fucking television in a box, and they would ask an employee to help them take it out to the car for them.
Yeah.
You know? And it's, I mean, I've worked in retail before, too. When I worked at a Barnes & Noble years ago, the corporate policy was not to do anything if somebody tried to steal something.
Yes, I think that's typical of like places like that. It's just because they don't want the lawsuit. That's what's going to get them. They're willing to accept a certain amount of
you could be
shrinkage.
thieving, and if somebody tackles you while you're thieving, you could sue them for assault for attacking
and proving someone has been like
Yeah.
stealing something is very difficult.
Yeah. Like, oh, how did this get here?
Yeah, we should start shoplifting.
I never steal anything.
Neither do I. I don't think I've ever stolen anything.
And it's not, I guess it's shame, maybe. Like I would feel guilty. I don't know. I don't know if I would feel guilty. I just don't
think
want to
I'd feel
bother.
that guilty either. Maybe I don't know why I don't do it. Well, I watched the King's Speech the other day. I told you this earlier.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what if I was in line to be the king?
Yeah.
And I felt like I could bear up and take responsibility.
Well, what is your responsibility?
Well, you got to make a speech, apparently.
Yeah.
I could do that. I could like read things and speak, and I could like lead my country to war. I feel like if I had to do it, I could do it.
Do you think there's any chance of this happening?
Oh, well, that's even less likely than me being Pope, right? Me being King of
You're
England.
Dutch, as far as I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so was William of Orange, I believe.
Yeah.
I guess maybe if I like got an army together, invaded, and made myself king.
Yeah. See, the whole problem with the whole taking an army and invading another country which used to work great, in the 19th century, even in the early 20th century. Now the rest of the world always has to get involved all the time. It used to be just kind of understood, like, okay, you kicked the shit out of those people, you won, well done. Now you're not allowed to win anymore, basically.
If you're going to win, you got to do it for a reason more than just the fact that you're winning.
Well, we go and take over a country, and then we spend billions of dollars rebuilding the country and then give it back to the people. What the fuck is that about?
Well, you'd have to go to war for some reason at some point. You have to, like, be oppressed by somebody and, like, have a better system of government. You can't just do it because you're like, oh, William the Conqueror should be the king. You know what I mean? And then go across.
Well, most wars, I think, in the past have not been about fighting oppression. It's been about, let's get this land because we want it, sort of action.
Yeah. It's like, let's get this land because we want it.
But people used to respect that. Be like, all right, fair enough.
Well, I think it's an improvement.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the might makes right.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I conquered you, so now you have to be like my slave, which isn't the best way to do things. Well,
we have thousands of years of history.
This is the thing I always say about people who profess to be communists. People are like, communism, sharing, it'll be great. But the thing is, the people who say they always have this vision of themselves as the people who are in charge.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, don't worry, I'll be the one that's in charge. I'll be the one that's, like, directing which factory the rest of us are going to go work in.
Right.
Which salt mine I'm going to work in. They're not thinking in their mind, like, oh, I'm going to be the one that works in salt mine number 767. You know what I mean?
Are we going to take down communism right now?
And you're thinking, well, that's what I'm saying about. Your thinking is, like,
if I were the one conquering
people,
yeah.
What would actually be happening is you'd be a peasant and you get killed by this conquering army.
Well, anytime anyone thinks about the past, like, oh, it'd be wonderful to live in medieval times, even if you were one of the aristocracy, you still would probably only live to be about 45 and you'd get syphilis or something. But
and it's very unlikely you're going to be one of those people.
Yes, because they were like 2% of the population, 1% of the population. For most of human history, life has been horrible for pretty much everybody who was alive.
Yeah.
There have been... The society we're living in now is the most egalitarian, equal society worldwide, even though there are places with oppression. But just taken on a balance, things are better now than they have ever been. And I think people lose sight of that often.
Oh, people lose sight of that.
Because, whatever crisis occurs, it's never been this bad before.
Oh, yeah, that's people always say that, right?
Because nobody has any long view of history.
Has any context.
They think of when they were born, and that's when history started, basically.
It used to be that, like, people didn't have enough food in the United States, you know what I mean? You just had to scramble for food. That's not an issue anymore.
No,
but then you move on to the next issue, which is, like, my TV's not big enough, and that becomes a crisis. It's like, it's not really a crisis. If you have enough food and you have, like, a warm place to live... You're doing fine.
I think all those people who complain should go lick a menstruating monkey. I can't even say it.
A menstruating monkey's cunt?
Yeah.
Oh, that's swearing. I shouldn't do that.
Oh, you just broke your Lent thing. So what happens when this isn't some sort of sacred vow you take before God, is it?
No, it's just something you're supposed to do.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't know. I wasn't raised Catholic. Neither were you. I'm intrigued by it.
I was for a while.
Really?
My family was Catholic.
Oh.
Yeah, my dad's
When you
side.
were a little kid?
I think it had pretty much gone away by then. At least, there's still my aunt and uncle are still Catholic, but I think my dad became one of those like Jesus freak hippie people.
Yeah.
In the late 70s.
It kind of appeals to me and stuff. The like sacrament and all this like the sacredness and the hierarchy and stuff. I'd be into it if it weren't for the fact that it's a horrible criminal organization that does awful things to people.
They also do a lot of good charity work.
Yeah, but this is the thing about that. You can do a lot of charity work without all the awful bullshit too. You know what I mean?
Well, the molestation and crazy closed society.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to pick a religion, I would probably be Catholic because I like the nice traditional aspects of it. Not that much is asked of you, really. I don't like the very... I mentioned my church that I grew up in last week on the show, and that was just in your face, and I'm not a fan of that. Actually, when I was a kid, I don't know if we have any Catholics listening, but you're supposed to go through... Growing up as a Catholic, you eventually get confirmed, and then you can do your first communion, and this means that you studied certain things, and
Yeah.
I don't think anyone does the liturgy in Latin anymore or anything, but you're supposed to know proper responses when the priest says something. And we went to go visit at my aunt's Catholic church when I was a kid, and I was probably like 11 or 12, and they had everyone go up for communion, and in my church, everyone took communion. It didn't matter. So I went up and took communion. And my aunt was scandalized because I had never been confirmed in the Catholic Church. So apparently I committed a huge sacrilege by having communion.
Yeah, you're the bad one. Who knows what was happening to the altar boy in the back? They got to let those priests marry.
Yeah, I think that would be useful.
They got to. Because the only reason that they're not is the fact that it maintains the criminal organization and they can keep the money in the church. Seriously, there's no reason for them not to marry. It leads to this unhealthy behavior.
They're supposed to be married to God.
Yeah.
But I don't think God
works out really
good
well
in the bedroom, really. So.
Yeah. I don't think, and there's nothing biblical that like forbids people in the priesthood
because
from
they're not
being
even
married.
supposed to jack off, are they?
No.
That's a problem.
It seems unhealthy.
Well, it is unhealthy.
Right? You know what I mean?
It's a very huge, major part of being a human is your sexuality. And when you're supposed to completely suppress that, it comes out in horrible, horrible ways.
Oh, as we've come to find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got to make some changes, right?
All right, so we've taken down communism. We've proved that communism is not a viable way to structure society. We've also taken down the Catholic Church.
Theocracy, we're not going to do that either.
Right. What other issues are we going to tackle?
We're going to go with democracy. We're going to stick with that.
Well, representative republic.
Representative democracy. I think that works pretty well so far.
Yeah, it's one of the best. All right, well, there you go. So, Street Freak of the Week.
Ooh, good.
They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts.
Spare $1
and give me a motherfucking cigarette.
I ran out of gas ways back. Got any meth?
You smoke weed, don't you?
God, in my car.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
I was getting a little worried this week because I was not being approached by any crazy people.
That will make anyone anxious.
Well, I was wandering around town just like, hello. You know, I would just stand on street corners. I'd have cigarettes so people could see I was smoking. I was just like looking very open and inviting. Like, come on, come up to me, do something weird. Nothing was happening until yesterday, finally, by the skin of our teeth, I had a Street Freak of the Week
thank
action.
God.
I was walking home from downtown. I'd gone to get a bagel. I think most of my stories usually start that way. I was walking by a man who was carrying a large boot in one hand that had no sole in it. And he actually had put his arm through the boot, and his fingers were protruding through the toe of the boot.
Okay.
And he was, just trundling along with the boot on his arm. I pass him on the street, and he goes, huh, and does this kind of double take and looks at me and gives me sort of a creepy, I want to violate you sort of look.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, just keep walking. He turns around and starts following after me.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, okay, maybe he forgot his other boot back
For
the way he came for his other arm, and he's going back to find that. But no, he follows me. He's about, 10 paces behind me. I turn to look every once in a while, and he gives me this, like, sort of strange, like, eyebrow thing.
My goodness.
I'm walking to my house, and I don't really want to go to my apartment because this guy is following me, and I don't want him to know where I live. But then I'm like, am I just going to wander around the neighborhood forever and hope that he goes away?
Yeah.
So finally, after he had followed me for about 4 blocks, I turned around and said, can I help you with anything?
Yeah.
And he went, maybe you can. And I said, okay. And he said nothing. He just stared at me in a frightening manner.
Oh.
It's like, I don't have any money or anything to give you if that's what you're after. And he's like, what makes you think I want that? It's like, I don't know. It seems like you're following me. It's like, maybe I am. Like, okay. Why? Just shrugs. Like, okay, I'm going to go now. Turn around and start walking. He waits for a little bit. I turn around and he's like, like looking at me again in a very creepy way. It's like he's waiting for me not to look before he starts following me again. So finally he does start following me. I get to my house. I quickly put in the little key code, go into my building, shut the door, go upstairs and look down on the street. And he's standing across the street, sort of looking around, surveying the area. He puts the boot down on the ground and sits upon it. as though it's some sort of stool. But
Oh,
it
well,
just,
that's the reason he had it.
no, I don't think so. It didn't really work. He was out there for a good 45 minutes.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
I was like creeping around my apartment on my hands and knees because I didn't want him to see me in a window.
Well, that's weird to do, too.
Well, I didn't. He was freaking me out, and so finally, I sort of like peeked. I would peek over the window, and then he would kind of look up near the window, and I'd peek, like, jerk down again. It was so horribly uncomfortable. Now, do you think
Yeah.
he was
There's only one answer to what was
a
going on
homosexual street person,
there. That's what seems to be going on.
and he was digging my action, and he was trying to follow me home?
Well, you said he gave you a look like that.
That's what
and
it
he
seemed
followed
like.
you, and he was like kind of like acting like he was interested in something, but didn't say what it was.
but he was also crazy, probably. So maybe, I mean, who can
well,
really
you can be
interpret his...
homosexual and crazy at the same time.
I guess. Usually they seem pretty together, though.
The gays.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, not
Well,
to
this is the thing.
generalize and be...
No, I know that's a stereotype, though.
Yeah.
If the actual interactions that a lot of us have with gays and like communities and cities, if there's a gay neighborhood, you're like, oh, it's very nice.
Oh, yeah,
everything's very well maintained.
Yeah.
Everyone's very well dressed and affluent. Mm-hmm. You should get this idea maybe that it's a stereotype. Maybe you're like, oh, gays are always very together,
Yeah.
very professional. You know what I mean? Maybe you saw a gay
Well, I
homeless
guess-
person, you thought it like broke your stereotype.
I guess whatever percentage of the general population is crazy, there's the similar percentage in the gay population that's insane as well.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I was wondering how that breaks down. Whatever the number is, it probably is the same number there's probably the same number of gay homeless people.
Yeah, I guess so. I just wonder, like, did he expect me to invite him into my apartment?
Well, that's the thing. He may have been crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guarantee you he was crazy. So maybe he had like some vague idea of what he was trying to do, or some fantasy he was living through, but he was following you.
He had a mustache kind of like yours, which didn't help.
Oh, this is big news. My mustache is different now.
I noticed this, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a handlebar anymore. I have a normal
I'm kind of
mustache.
disappointed, actually, when I saw you last night.
Everyone seems very disappointed in this. Everyone was really into that handlebar mustache. I'm gonna have to bring it back, I think.
Yeah.
Although I'm happy with this one. I like seeing myself in the mirror, and then I look, and I have that weird, creepy mustache.
It's
and
very creepy.
My hair is sort of getting into the thing where it's like a helmety now.
Yeah, it's sort of like the child molester comb forward
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's a creepy
Maybe
look
we'll
right
take
now.
another picture and put one up there on the website. So that's my street freak of the week this time. It was skin of the teeth. Almost didn't have one happening. I almost had another one today where there was somebody who looked a little who was approaching my vehicle, but then they turned around and walked away. And I was
I
like,
like
damn
how
it.
this disappoints you now.
Well, it's like I need bait or something to get these people to come to me because now that I want it, it's
oh,
not
you're the
happening
bait
as often.
buddy, apparently.
I guess.
You hang that body out there on the street, they go for it.
It's the pert ass I've got.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
Like I mentioned last week, we talked about how I am crazy because I live alone. And once again, the Adam Carolla Show has ripped our podcast off because our episode aired on Thursday, I believe. And I think on the following Friday, they had a whole segment about how people, basically become insane if
Yeah.
they're living alone. Eccentric behavior increases. So, fuck you, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, we're getting used to it. Everyone ripping us off our great ideas.
It's a constant thing. And I don't know, based on our listener numbers, I don't know how the information gets
Neither
disseminated.
do I. It seems like
exactly.
maybe one person downloads it and gives the one download to all the other podcasts.
Right, I think that's what happens. Or maybe there's some sort of like podcast clearinghouse where everybody goes into like a listening room and they like, what are Warren and Brad talking about?
Well,
this
you
week?"
imagine remember the old record stores and you go in there and put your headphones
Yeah,
on
yeah.
and listen. If like podcasts,
I can imagine Adam
were on
Carolla
records,
and Joe Rogan and all those people. They're all in a room, like a circular room with little booths, and there's
Listening.
a picture of our podcast on, and they're all nodding and
notes.
their eyes narrowed and taking
Yeah.
notes. Yeah.
because they aren't going to be amused or entertained. They're just competitive.
Well, yeah, we
They're
are
like us.
we are competition, and we're nipping at their heels, and they know this, and so they are thinking we have a higher listenership, so we can take the amazing segment that Warren and Bradley did, we can put it out, and who are people going to believe? Like, oh, well, I heard that on Adam Carolla's show, but when we say no, it was on our show first, it's semantics
no
by
one's
that
listening,
point.
so it's a problem. Yeah,
Well, there's
we're crying into the wind.
obviously Adam Carolla is listening.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
It's Oscar season, everybody.
It is, and this is the Oscar preview part of the Warren and Bradley show, even though by the time you hear this episode, the Oscars will already have happened.
So what we're going to do right now, the Oscars haven't aired yet. We're going to tell you who won. We're
picking winners. We're picking winners,
but we're going to treat it as if we know. And then when you listen to it and we're wrong, don't be alarmed.
You can get a scorecard going. Okay, so let's start out with the big one. The nominees for Best Motion Picture.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait a minute. This is the Golden Globes. Okay.
Are you just you're gonna read the nominees?
We'll read the nominees, and the winner is.
All right,
okay?
Let's do it.
And maybe we won't start with Best Picture. Let me see. Let's get down here. Blah, 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 blah. Costume design, art direction. We don't need to get in all this directing.
I know it's going to win all of them, though. I got a feeling about all of them.
Okay, we're going to start with a more esoteric category.
All right.
Foreign language film.
Uh-oh, that's a tough one, actually.
The nominees are, from Belgium, Bullhead. From Canada, Monsieur Lézard. From Iran, A Separation. From Israel, Footnote. And from Poland, In Darkness. And the winner is, Warren?
The winner is Monsieur Lézard.
I think you're wrong.
The other one, it could be A Separation.
It's going to be A Separation. I mean,
I know
it
it's
is A
down to those
Separation.
two.
That's the one that won, right?
The Oscars haven't... Oh, yeah. No, Monsieur Lézard won.
Have you seen any of these?
No, but I just read a preview of...
Do you know what any of them are about? I know what A Separation's about. That's
About
the
a
only
separation?
one. Yeah.
Like a marriage?
And since that's the only one I've heard of, then that's the one that wins.
Well, it looks like we had a disagreement with who won this Oscar.
Who's right? Best makeup.
Oh, the Iron Lady's going to win that.
Yeah, obviously. Documentary feature. Hell and Back Again. If a Tree Falls, A Story of the Earth Liberation Front. Paradise Lost 3. Purgatory. Piña. And Undefeated.
Oh, crap.
I think it's going to be the Paradise Lost 3. That's the one about the three teenagers.
West Memphis 3.
Yeah, the West Memphis 3.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, that wins.
You agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So the winner is, and it's going to be Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory. Film editing.
This is a good podcast.
This is amazing podcast. Let's skip all these ones that nobody gives a shit about.
All right.
Go right to Best Picture. Now, the nominees for Best Picture are The Artist, The Descendants,
Yeah.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Help, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, and Warhorse. Now, Warren, how many of these movies have you actually seen?
I've seen 3 of those movies.
And those are?
I've seen Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, and The Tree of Life.
Out of the 3 you've seen, which was your favorite?
Midnight in Paris.
I have seen one of these.
You've seen The Artist.
I've seen The Artist.
But that is going to be your winner, you know.
I'm pretty sure that's the one that's going to win. And even you are, even though you haven't seen it.
It's a silent movie, right?
It is.
There's no talking?
There's
some talking at the end, right?
One line of dialogue.
Yeah, this is what I get the impression that there's something that happens
Yeah.
that like shocks you, right? Okay.
Well, it's not shocking necessarily, but yeah.
Well, it's like a part of the movie. It's like
Yeah.
an important part of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to see this movie.
It's good.
It's a good idea.
So, and that won the Golden Globe, I think, for Best Comedy or Musical.
Let me tell you what I've heard about this Oscars this year.
What have you heard?
I think her name is Viola Davis. Is
Yeah.
in The Help.
Yeah.
Apparently, her performance is very good. So people are upset about the performance because it's an African American portraying a person that's kind of like an ignorant person because they're a maid back in the
Yeah.
60s or whatever. I don't know how you could be upset about that.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say. But yeah, if you're
But
not,
it's something that happened.
it's the idea. It's this weird idea we have where, let's take a great example of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Yes.
This supposedly takes place in the 19th century in some frontier community, but she's championing like gay rights and environmentalism. This did not happen then. People didn't give a shit. And she's, doing open heart surgery on people and brain surgery. People like to put modern mores and shove them into the past, basically. And so when you have a movie about a domestic servant in the South, they want her to be a PhD, and that's not the way it was.
Well, that's the weird thing. It's like, if she does a good performance of this character, a kind of character that actually like represents someone that existed at the time.
Yeah.
That's not like a problem, is it?
Well, you can't portray a black person as being ignorant. It's stupid. It's ridiculous.
It's a weird thing to be upset about.
The criticism I've heard of The Help is that it's a story about these domestic servants, but it's all told through the eyes of the white chick. And if you're going to make this movie, why not tell it from the point of view of the people you're portraying? Instead of, some people are saying it's inherently racist because the only way we could think of to tell the story was to have a white person telling the story of these black people. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, but I think people are just way too sensitive. Just relax.
Well, that's the thing. If I can see like you criticizing the movie maybe because you feel that that's not the best way to tell the story, but to say that you have to like frame the story from a certain character's perspective based on their race because of like race relations reasons is not a good reason to change the way you make a story. It's boring and stupid to do that.
I agree.
Nah.
Do we have any that's our Oscar preview.
I hope she wins, and I hope like Al Sharpton's head explodes and gets really sad or something. I don't know.
Al Sharpton. I guess since I'm not a minority, this would never happen, but I would love to set myself up in a position that whenever anything happens to anybody who is of the same race as me, news crews come to my house and ask me to comment on it.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you were famous and you got in a drunk driving accident or something. What do you think of this, Bradley?
Well, you're like the white representative.
I'm the representative of the white race. And so anytime anyone from my race does something, I'm the one that they come to ask about. It's ridiculous. Shut the fuck up.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
So I was in the local convenience store the other day, and Gurpreet, my local convenience store owner, it's like, oh, Bradley, have you noticed Mega Millions? $93 million. And he almost convinced me to buy a lottery ticket, which is, basically taking money and putting it in a shredder and throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, every once in a while you see it, it's like $200 million. And there's a little part of you is like, what could it hurt? And so, of course, there's part of that in the back of your mind. What would you actually do if you just suddenly had $100 million or $200 million? Because it's such a crazy foreign concept to me. And it's way different than if you'd actually earned the money,
completely different.
Merit. You worked hard and got money. So there's a story of this woman who won, I think it was a 266 million lottery jackpot, which is ridiculous. I don't know if that was the amount she actually got or if that was the amount that...
That's probably the reported amount. She'd probably end up with half that, I would assume, after taxes and everything.
So here's a story of this woman. I'm getting my broadcaster voice going here. What do you do when you win $266 million? Well, if you're like Jackie Cisneros, the answer is self-evident. You go to work. That's where the newest Mega Millions lottery winner was early Thursday morning, and where she plans to continue to be. I can't imagine not working. It's a foreign concept to me, Cisneros told today's Matt Lauer and Meredith Vieira from the newsroom of KNBC Television in Los Angeles, where she was finishing her shift as an overnight assignment director. With Cisneros was her husband, Gilbert Cisneros, who 2 weeks ago had been laid off from his job and no longer needs to worry about stretching the family budget.
Wait. This is weird. The fact that she didn't even have to go to a studio to talk to Matt Lauer
because she
works
working
at a
studio.
TV studio.
Yeah.
Well, that's bizarre.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. And it was an affiliate of NBC apparently too.
That's strange, isn't it?
Yeah. Warren.
Yeah.
If you won $266 million, would you show up to work the next day?
I know. There's, you know what I mean?
Fuck no.
Oh, there's no way. I would find something productive to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I'd probably work on something, but I wouldn't go back to my monotonous, boring, stupid job.
Well, I love these people who say, well, the money's not going to change me. I'm going to be the same person. I'm still going to put my pants on one leg at a time. If I won $266 million, I would go fucking crazy.
Oh, there's the train. Do you think...
Hold on.
We're waiting for the train to pass.
Train break.
So you think if you won, you would just lose your mind and just...
Yeah, probably.
You don't think you could handle it? You think it would be a bad story?
Well, I think I could probably handle it. It would be that weird thing where I knew I didn't deserve to have the money.
Yeah.
But who deserves to have anything, really? I mean,
yeah.
I guess there is a difference between, really bearing down, working really hard, sacrificing time and energy, and becoming successful. Because then you feel as though you've earned the money. You feel like you can enjoy yourself. Because I didn't actually earn any of this money, I would probably give a lot of it away.
Yeah.
And that would ruin everybody's life. Like, I'd give millions of dollars to my family, and then they would go crazy.
Yeah.
There'd probably be divorces and all sorts of things going on all over the place.
my.
There'd be, like, I don't know. I could imagine I'd give it to my little brother who's going through college now. He'd probably just become like an alcoholic, drug addict, trust fund kid and just
Zach.
die in a Maserati accident or something at some point. I would do ridiculous things.
You think this is the direction it would go with you? You don't think it would be just, you don't think you could handle it?
I don't think I'd destroy myself, but I think that there would definitely, I would be much more likely to blow money that had just been a windfall than I would money that I had earned.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd blow it, though. I don't know what I'd do. I'd just probably put it in the bank and quit my job and just have my normal life. I'd probably go on more trips, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like a fly other places, and I'd be like, oh, this is great.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think I'd go crazy. I think I could probably handle it pretty well. I think of all these lottery winners, you see them, you know, they end up like bankrupt after 5 years. Like most of them end up like bankrupt apparently.
Well, there was the guy, it was one of the biggest lottery drawings that had ever been. It was somewhere on the East Coast, somewhere. And he was like a contractor or something. And maybe a year after he had won, it was like 300 million, something unspeakable. He was found in a pickup truck in the parking lot of his strip club with like $500,000 in cash on the seat next to him and like all sorts of coke and everything. Like that's kind of the direction you could see yourself going. Like
you really see you think
No, I mean we've talked before about buying an island and trying to take over the world. That's kind of where my mind might go at some point.
Huh.
But okay, if I actually won $266 million, I would get rid of my 94 Chevy S10 pickup with the Herculiner on the cab. I would probably buy a nice car, one that wasn't practical, one that I was just like, ooh, this is nice.
Like a Mercedes, something like that?
Ooh,
or a BMW?
Oh, I know what I'd get. I'd get a Mercedes SLS AMG. Ooh.
Oh,
That's a
there
nice
you go.
car.
That was fast.
And I'd buy a house. I'd probably buy a house here. I'd buy a house in a city. In the city. I might set up like 2 different households with 2 different wives and like different families, different kids.
Would you really?
No.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. You're going to buy this house and wherever you're going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
And you're just going to go down there and you're going to have all this money and you're not going to have anything to do.
I'll tell you what I wouldn't do.
What?
I wouldn't show up at my construction job the next day.
Oh.
I'll tell you that right now.
No, there's no way. I don't know if I probably would buy a house, I guess. I think I would, I'd probably travel. I don't have a lot of vices. So I don't know if my vices would like spin out of control.
You don't have any vices yet.
You think I would?
I don't know. No, you're like a freakish, weird person.
I am a freakish, weird person. The thing is, that's because I'm the person that's like, quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the best thing ever. So I think the thing that might happen to me would be the opposite of some of these other people. I think I might just be isolated completely because I'd be more like Howard Hughes. I'd just be like, I can control my environment.
Your
Everything's
money
really,
would isolate you.
Yeah, I'd be isolated. I'd be like, I
distant
wouldn't have to interact with people I didn't want to interact with anymore. So I'd be like, I have a nice quiet life.
So
I'd
you
have
think
some
you'd go
books.
for like the long fingernails, urine in jars, crazy beard?
I think that's
Mormons taking care
that's
of
a
you?
direction I would probably go more than like, I wouldn't have like $500,000 in cash and like cocaine.
Yeah.
Because that just sounds awful to me right now. You know what I mean? Going to a strip club just sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah. I don't know. The money, I could see it maybe pushing me over the edge. I don't think I would totally lose it. I like you, I would probably travel.
The thing is, I'd like to travel, but I also like silence. So I'd go like travel. I'd go somewhere. I just walk around.
I would want to have an adventure. I would go like the old Hemingway kind of thing where you're on some riverboat on the Congo and you become a mercenary for a while. You fight.
You're going to do that?
Yeah.
You could do that now.
No, but this way I could always go home to my giant mansion, you know? I could do whatever I wanted and it's not going to ruin me.
You're going to get yourself in danger.
Oh, yeah.
Even with all this money.
Well, because I would have to have some kind of meaning in my life because I'd get all this money and I know it wasn't earned.
So being a riverboat mercenary is the meaning you're looking for?
Because I would give some away to charities to try to assuage my guilt a little bit. I give some to my money. My money? Oh my God, it's already happening. I'd give some to my family. And then I would just be like, all right, my life is pointless and meaningless now. I've been handed this thing that I don't deserve, so now I'm going to put myself in reckless situations. You'd be calling like, Brad, come on, come home, while I'm polishing my AK-47 and leading the Zulu tribe. I don't know. It would be, I'd maybe be like Lawrence of Arabia. I'd go somewhere and just,
Really?
it'd be fun.
If you're this ready for adventure, why don't you go have some adventures right now?
I got to pay my rent, man.
We'll just leave.
Yeah, then I wouldn't have any.
The thing is, it's more likely you do these things now because you don't have anything to lose now. You know what I mean?
But that, I think, the way my mind is working right now is that it would be a liberation to have all this money. You have this huge safety net. So let's say I am in the Congo on a riverboat fighting some sort of separatist tribe. And then, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And we're in a giant firefight. Our riverboat explodes and I'm stranded somewhere. I pull myself out of the river. I march like hundreds of miles through the jungle. I finally come to some little outpost, and I can just call, Jeeves back home, be like, send the plane. I'm getting out of here. And then he would send my private jet, and I could go on to my next adventure, leaving my poor people to die and be slaughtered by the separatists.
You think if you end up in a situation where you're like wandering through the jungle for like miles and miles and miles and barely survive, the next thing you're going to do is instantly enter into another situation like that?
Well, I'd go home first and like my butler.
Relax. The butler would like scrub you down.
It'd be like in Batman Begins, where he went off to Tibet or whatever.
Yeah.
He was in jail for a while learning about the criminal mind, getting in fights with inmates. And then at the end of it, he's like, all right. And he calls Alfred and he comes in the jet and he picks him up and he goes back home.
You're going to become like Batman.
Oh, yeah.
I guess Batman has lots of money, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's something you could do.
Yeah. I like the way you're thinking, Warren. Because if you have unlimited funds, you could basically invent anything. That's what movies have taught me.
Yeah, and the other thing with having lots of money is you have to like spend it in some way.
Oh yeah.
Because it makes me think of like people who collect art that's very expensive. I was reading a story this week about a gallery in New York, and they had acquired all these purported modern art. Great works of modern art by Jackson Pollock and William de Kooning. And it turned out they're probably forgeries. And so people are trying to get their money back and stuff.
Yeah.
The weird thing about that is, though, like, you pay $60 million for this, like, Mark Rothko. You hang it and you're like, it's so beautiful.
Right.
You're like, I love art. This is so beautiful. It's so worth it. Then if somebody is like, that wasn't made by Mark Rothko.
It's shit.
Is it? It's the same exact painting.
I've always thought about that in like getting print as opposed to the actual thing. And the only point of having the actual piece is that I guess it's if you like the piece just because of its aesthetic merits, then what the fuck does it matter if it's a print? If you want the piece because you want the piece, you want to have that piece of history, that's a different thing. Or
it's about being connected to the famous artist who made it, and they made the picture for you.
You can see the brush strokes. You can see.
It's weird though but the art is that way though, right?
I would buy art. I think I'd buy I'd probably buy a lot of weaponry. Japanese swords from the 13th century and hang them in my house.
That's super nerdy.
I'd go look crazy.
Getting swords?
Well, if I'm going to be fighting the separatists, I need some weapons.
You're going to need a machine gun.
Oh, and I could do the room. Remember the room? The bulletproof room that I would fill with treasures that I could just shoot.
Oh, that's right. You could do that. Oh, I guess maybe I could get like a driving range in my backyard. Yeah. And I could just hit golf
alley
balls.
Underneath.
Oh, yeah. These are good things to have, right?
There's so many ways.
A batting cage, maybe. Yeah.
And then you just
a batting cage. I guess you don't have to be like a millionaire to have a batting cage. There's just some chain link fence and a pitching machine, but
basically the money is options. Money equals options.
But it does create this problem. You're suddenly separated from your life that you had before. Yeah. You no longer can normally interact with the people around you, right?
I'd still be down to earth. I'd still hang out with you guys at the ranch room.
Would you really?
But drinks would be on me every night. People would be like, that's a great guy. I'd be like, hey, have another drink. And everyone would love me.
And then you'd go home and you'd like
love.
Wait for the night so you could buy drinks for people again. It would be really sad.
Yeah. I guess the appearance of people respecting me is better than nothing.
Well, this is like the thing with professional athletes. They become like professional basketball players. And they keep the core people around them who are around them when they were very young. Right. They're the people they can trust, right?
Right.
Because once you do end up with all this money, the new like people you acquire are going to be
question their motives.
Well, it's always going to be about the money in a certain degree, right? Mm-hmm. If you got all this money, suddenly you could probably date Kate Beckinsale or something, right? And
Kate Beckinsale.
I don't know. I think she's attractive.
Yeah, I guess so.
And let's say you're dating her, right? And she's like, "Oh, Bradley, you're so wonderful." Mm-hmm. The thing is, you're still.
She would say that.
Well, she would, but it's only because of your money.
How do you know?
She's not going to date you now.
Maybe she likes my personality.
Well, she would suddenly magically like your personality because you have all this money.
Warren, the money just gets her in the room. And then it's me that keeps her there.
Well, that's the thing you'll be telling yourself. But in some level, you'll always know the fact that it's all about your money.
She'd get tired of me making her wear her costume from Underworld all the time, and then she'd eventually leave me.
Underworld?
Isn't she the one that was in the vampire thing with the tight, like, leather?
Oh, really? Oh, I should see this.
The movies are horrible, but the costume is good.
No, well. You can pay her to dress up and prance around your house.
That is funny, though, because, like, even if you're not a celebrity, if you've never made a movie, you're not in any way talented, if you are a you have hundreds of millions of dollars, you can go to these places where the celebrities are, you can befriend them, and you can be... It's like, okay, you're rich, we'll hang out with you.
You're granted access. And when you buy, if that's what you want to buy with your money, you can have access to these celebrities.
Friends.
You can have, theoretically, they can be friends.
Yeah.
You can call them that. But it changed your relationship with everyone you know in the past. You can no longer ever trust anyone you meet in the future.
I would get our whole friend group and go on a giant trip. I think that would be hilarious.
That'd be fun, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we could have nice accommodations.
Oh, yeah.
You could eat all the best.
What you do is, like, I would plan, like, okay, I'm going to take a 3-month tour of the world sort of thing. And then when anyone could get time off, I'd pay all the airfare and accommodations and stuff. And I'd say, okay, when can you slot in time?
Yeah.
And we'd all schedule, like, where would you like to go? Where you could meet up with me here. We could be here. It'd be great. It'd be amazing.
That'd be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty fun. Yeah. All right.
I'm going to go buy that ticket.
All right. Thank you, Goopreet.
You're very welcome, sir.
He's Irish, obviously.
Yeah.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.